one more minute, and then we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Pete, Pete is he is the admitting people. So if they come in, he'll be watching for them, so we can get started here. And again, guys, thanks for all you've done to help get the word out. And again, we're going to take this and we're going to, grow Rotary one member at a time. If everybody will stand with me, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hoorah.
Hoorah. Okay, so what we do at Rotary, we have this is the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it, and all Rotarians, Pete Scherer, if you would lead this, please. Pete.
Four-way test.
Okay, yeah.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will be beneficial to all concerned?
And at our Rotary Club, we have a fifth test question is it fun? So let me go to this slide. So I know we have some people that are stationed in other parts of the world, but our San Antonio Veterans Rotary Club will be working with the Bexar County Military and Veteran Service Center Memorial Day event. We're going to be volunteering to help with check-in, and they've also given us a booth so we can tell more people about Rotary. So James, if you would like to volunteer, and if I know you're still in DC, right, or Virginia, right? And popped off. Okay. Well, we would love to have you, and we would love to have you join us if you can for an hour to help with helping veterans in transition. I would say this is a great event to find out information about the many services available in our community.
Maybe I can get them to finish my my disability claim while I'm there,
or at least find the people that can help you with that. Great. Okay. So that's the only announcement I have is on behalf of the San Antonio Veterans Rotary Club. I will introduce my friend Mark Overberg. I've known Mark for about a year, maybe. Mark, would that be right?
That's about right.
And this is the beautiful thing about relationships you build on LinkedIn. We've built a relationship through that year, and I've watched Mark post a lot of amazing things. And so I would like for Mark to tell us a little bit about the military retirement, and from there, you have the floor, Mark, and you have your slides, right?
I do.
And you have the ability to share your slides. So I'm going to stop to share so you can do that, okay?
All right. All right. So thanks for coming out tonight. I appreciate you're doing that. And I'll talk to you about what it is I do, and we'll have plenty of time for questions towards the end. I've got a lot of material, so I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. So let's see. All right, so you should see the military retirement update. So what Matt asked me to talk about tonight was things that have changed with military retirement benefits over the last 20 years. And actually, I hear from some people that that nothing much changes, and that's not really true. There's been a lot of benefits. People think about what they are losing, but they don't necessarily think about or know about the things that are new. So that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. My first slide here is basically try to give you an idea of what it is I do for the Army. Now, I am somewhat parochial. I am the Army's Director of Retirement Services. So mostly what I'll be talking about Army policies, but a lot of this stuff is all purple, as we say. So it affects all services. If it's Army only, I'll let you know that. But for the Army, this is what I do. On the left-hand side of the slide, it's what I do to prepare soldiers to retire. We try to get them into the mindset that retirement is a process, not an event, not a ceremony, but they've actually got to do some preparation. In the middle of that blue arrow are some of the resources that we provide to them. And down at the bottom of the blue arrow are the folks that we actually communicate with, everybody who has 17 or more years of service in all three components. We normally retire between 30 and 32,000 soldiers from all three components each year. For the Marine Corps, that would be a lot. On the right-hand side, what we do for this community here, this crowd here, is our post-retirement policy. And the top there, it says your mission has changed, but your duty has not. And that's the idea that, you know, when you retire from the military, no longer are you training and deploying to fight and win the nation's wars, but we still need you, and we believe that you have a mission. And for the retired soldiers, that mission is summarized in 2 words: hire and inspire. We made that short and sweet for me so I could remember it, and I'll tell you what it means in a little bit with a later slide. But in the middle there are the blue arrow. Those are some of the resources we put out there for retired soldiers. They're also available to retired service members of other services. And at the bottom, it shows we have just over 1 million retired soldiers now, and also 250,000 surviving spouses that I advocate for and provide for. The Army paid out a little over $22 billion in fiscal year 20 in retired pay and survivor benefit plan annuities. So it's not just a little bit of chump change. These numbers, typically when I brief senior leaders, these numbers surprise them, the number of people and the amount of money. Okay, so this is really sort of the hub for me. This is our website where you're going to find pretty much everything that you're looking for in retirement services if you're interested in the Army. Upper left-hand corner shows our retirement planning page. One key document there is the retirement planning guide. Just below that is Army Echoes, which is the retired soldiers newsletter. It's published quarterly now. You can get back issues there. They're all available by PDF. To the on the top row, second from the left, that's where you see the Retired Soldier Handbook. Anything that, if you're already retired, look on that page for things you're looking for. Down below that is the Army Echoes blog. So we publish the newsletter quarterly, but Army Echoes blog, we post new articles 3 times a week. It fills in the gaps since we only do the newsletter 4 times a year. To the right of the Army Echoes blog is Change of Mission. That's the retirement planning newsletter. And then down below that, it's the survivor benefit plan. Everything you ever wanted to know, with plenty of videos and briefings to explain it all. And then to the bottom right-hand corner, that's the homepage for the U.S. Army's, or the Chief of Staff of the Army's Retired Soldier Council. Tomorrow, they should be posting on our website here their annual report. We just finished their annual meeting last Wednesday, so you can see what the council talked to the Chief of Staff of the Army about this week. These are 2 other resources that I'm responsible for. I provide My Army Benefits, which is the U.S. Army's official military benefits website. And then I do the same thing for the Air Force. I provide My Air Force Benefits. We don't provide to the Navy or the Marine Corps yet, but we hope to bring them on board at some time in the future. We do cover the Guardians. They're wrapped in under the Air Force still. So for the retired community, what to find in these websites, and they're open to anybody, is looking where it's called the benefit library up there towards the top. That has 3 major parts. The first part is federal fact sheets that tell you all your federal benefits that you're eligible for based off of your status. State and territory benefits fact sheets that'll tell you what your state offers you for veterans benefits. And then a resource locator which is state by state, if you're looking for a military service provider, where they are, how to connect with them. The benefits calculators are for members who are currently serving. And those are, in this case, for both of these, those are hidden behind a CAC wall because it connects into the Army's and the Air Force's personnel systems to pull their information into the calculators. So those are our two benefits websites. So when you retired, you may have gone through, if you're Army, you may have gone through a thing called the Army Career and Alumni Program. That's what I went through. But it wasn't mandatory, it was optional. Now the program is called the Army Transition Assistance Program, and it is directed by law. Congress passed the VOW Act a few years back and set out the parameters for what everybody leaving the military has to do as they transition out, including general officers. They have to go through it as well. Some of the key things are that they sit down with a counselor at least 365 days out before your retirement date or ETS date and walk them through the things that they have to know. And then there's a 40-hour class, 5 days of class that usually should be spread out over 12 to 24 months to not try to take it all at once. So TAP is a big thing now, and you can't get away from that, which is good. These two programs are only about 2 years old. The DoD version is called the SkillBridge program. You may have heard of that.
Yep.
The Army equivalent program is called the Army's Career Skills Program. It's very, very closely aligned with the DoD SkillBridge program. There's a couple little distinctions, but the bottom line of these two programs is to make it easier for service members to transition. What they allow them to do, and this is all up to the command, so it's not intended for everybody necessarily. The focus, at least for the Career Skills program, is on service members after their first or second tour, the younger folks who may have trouble transitioning. It is open to all service members, but basically what we're trying to do is give them an opportunity in the last, up to the last 180 days on their contract to work with a civilian company or organization, to be to do an internship or apprenticeships and on the job skills training. They're still serving on active duty, so the company does not have to pay their salary. The company gets a chance to look at a veteran, see how good they are, see if this is somebody they want to hire, and very frequently it results in a hiring situation. And that's good for us because one of the reasons this was created was that we used to pay, the military services used to pay a lot of money in unemployment compensation. And some people don't understand that, you know, when you leave the military, if you don't get a job and you file for unemployment compensation with your state, they're going to ask where you last employed, and then they're going to come back to, in our case, the Army. And the Army paid, back in 2011, the Army paid a little over $500 million in unemployment compensation. The problem with that is that is the same money that the Army uses to pay for salaries, training, and equipment. So if we're paying it for unemployment compensation, we can't support our current soldiers. So these are some of the programs that have been devised to smooth the transition and reduce our unemployment problem with veterans. So I think just about everybody here perhaps is collecting retired pay. May not know that there are 4 retired pay plans, and we still have a few people on each of the plans. So let me run through those real quick because the last one is probably the new one for you. The final basic pay plan, if you look in the right-hand column here, where it says DIEMS, that stands for the date of initial entry into military service. What that means is the date you are first contracted to the military through an enlistment contract or through a ROTC contract or through West Point. And what the deemed state does is just determine which of the retired pay plans you fall under. So the final basic pay plan, we took your years of creditable service, multiplied by 2.5% times your final base pay. Normally, if you serve 20 years, 20 years times 2.5 was 50% times your final base pay. That's how we determined it. So the high 36 plan, same thing, except we use the average of your 36 highest months of base pay. The next one down there, if you elected to take the career status bonus, which was a $30,000 bonus at the 15-year mark of service, and then stayed to 20 years, you'd be under what we call the redux plan, which meant you got a little bit less because in retirement, because you got that $30,000 bonus up early. The last one, and that's the new one, the blended retirement system, came in January 1st, 2018, and I'll talk a little bit more about it on the next slide. So Congress really wanted to change the retirement system, and it was through many years of negotiation and discussion, they finally came up with this one. So what we all receive in retired pay is what we call a defined benefit. It's defined by how long you served. So for us, what I was just talking about with the high 3 average or the final pay average, we took 2.5% times the years of service times the average 36 months of base pay. This is the same, except they only get 2%. So at 20 years, they'll only get 40% of their high 36 months average. So that's about 10% less for a 20-year commitment. So to make up for that, what Congress did is gave a defined contribution, sort of put a little bit of the retirement planning onto the service member. If you've heard of the thrift savings plan, that's what this is. And it has been around for a long time for federal civilian employees. If you're familiar with 401ks, that's what this is. The federal thrift savings plan is the largest such type defined contribution plan in the world. I can't quote you off the top of my head the numbers, but it is the largest by far. So how it works for these new soldiers coming in since January 1st of 2018, they're set up with an automatic contribution. They can change it, but they're set up with automatic. So if they do nothing, when a service member comes in from the first day, 5% of their base pay will be put into a thrift savings plan for them. At the 60 days, after 60 days in, basically after they're done with basic training for the most part, the government will start, will start putting 1% of their base pay into the thrift savings plan account for them. When they hit the 2-year mark, then the government will start matching, and you can see the matching there. So if the member left it alone and put in 5%, the agency is going to put in 1%, and then they'll match with 4%. So the service member will get 10% monthly going into their TSP. Wow. Now it's also set up to automatically contribute to a, some people would think perhaps the G fund, which is the government bonds fund, but it's not. It's set to automatically go to a life cycle. If you're not familiar with the funds, the life cycle funds are a mixture of the various different funds, from different sizes, stock funds to bond funds to government bond funds to international funds. And it's set up, the life cycle is set, the fund that's chosen is one that is appropriate for their age. So they look at when the member is going to turn 62, and they find the closest fund to that, and that's the one that they'll be put into. They can change it if they like, but probably most of them don't. So that'll continue, and of course they can contribute and up their contributions if they like. The third part of the blended retirement system is continuation pay, and that's a career bonus between the 18th and 12th years of services. So far since institution, it's always, the services have kept it at the 12-year mark. And what they get is, if they're active duty, they get 2.5 times the monthly base pay as a bonus to sign up for 4 more years to continue to serve for 4 more years. That would take them from 12 years to 16. The reserve component folks, not the AGRs, but the drilling reservists and National Guardsmen, get one half of a month's, but that's based off of half of a month as though they were on active duty. So it's comparable. The fourth element of BRS is the lump sum. And what this basically is when the service member is ready to retire and start collecting retired pay, they can essentially borrow against some of their expected retired pay. They can choose to take a 25 or a 50% lump sum at retirement of the amount that they would receive from retirement till they're age 67. If we're talking a senior officer, this amount can be over a couple $100,000, quite large. Yeah, so it's enough to help start a new business, buy a house, do some things with. There are some financial pitfalls with it as well. So they're required to take training before they make that election. So in return for that lump sum, they're going to accept a reduction in their monthly retired pay up until age 67.
Yeah.
So, you know, financially, it's probably not a great idea, but unless they're going to try to start a business or something and they just don't have the cash. All right. Combat-related special compensation and concurrent retired and disability pay. I could talk an hour about these two. So I'm really just going to try to stick to the wave tops. Both of these were created shortly after 9/11, 2002 for CRSC and 2004 for CRDP. They're designed to compensate members for disabilities. So let's start on the left-hand side first. Combat-related special compensation came out first, and that was designed to take care of service members who were getting in Afghanistan, especially at first, and then Iraq, combat-related wounds.
Yeah.
So anything that falls into one of these 4 categories is covered. It doesn't have to be necessarily in armed combat. Simulated combat, like an FTX or a field training exercise, that would qualify as well. Hazardous duty and instrumentalities of war. So if the VA determines they have a rating from something in one of these areas, they'll have to apply. It's a non-taxable benefit and it's not divisible in divorce. In our case, for the Army, they have to apply to the Human Resources Command. So down at the bottom is a link if you want more information. So what's a little bit different is the one on the right, the one that came second, concurrent retirement and disability pay. And the title says what it is. Basically, since 1890 until this was passed in 2004, to receive disability compensation from the VA, the member had to agree to waive an equal amount of retired pay. There was a dollar for dollar offset.
Yeah.
What this program did is it eliminated the offset, but not for everybody, only for the most severely disabled. So the member has to meet 2 major criteria to qualify. It has to have a VA disability rating of 50% or more, and they have to have a 20-year retirement or more. So if a member had a 50% disability and 19 years of service, he wouldn't qualify. It is a taxable benefit because what they're getting is the retired pay back that they would have had to waive. And so, of course, because it's retired pay, it's divisible in divorce. But they don't have to apply. This is done automatically between VA and DFAS. All right, let's talk about some changes in healthcare. There have been some significant changes in what's offered to retired service members under healthcare. Probably the most recent and biggest one is that when you retire, if you don't apply for Tricare, you won't have Tricare. You have to apply within 90 days of retirement, or you're going to have a lapse in coverage. Retirement is what they call a qualifying life event. Otherwise, the only time you can get in is during the open season between mid-November and mid-December. So that was one of the major changes. And that was required by law, and it's to align it with how everybody does insurance, life or health insurance on the open market. So the programs have changed. Tricare Prime is still Tricare Prime. Tricare Standard and Tricare Extra were combined into Tricare Select. You can see there the annual fees for a family or for an individual is still quite a good deal. Even with the deductibles, Prime doesn't have deductibles, Tricare Select does. It's still quite a good deal compared to civilian plans. Tricare Young Adult came about when the Affordable Care Act required everybody to pay to offer health insurance for children up to the age of 26. So Tricare Young Adult was the federal government's way, or the military's way, of offering that for the children of service members and retired service members. So it covers them between 23 and 26. However, this is not subsidized by the federal government like Tricare Prime and Tricare Select. So it's expensive. I did cover my daughter with this for a year when she was getting her master's degree. It's better than nothing. The prices have continued to go up right now. It's over $6,000 a year for one child. So
that's normal though for standard plans.
Yeah, right. It's a shock to people who aren't used to paying civilian rates. And then, of course, Tricare for Life. Everybody on here, if they're not on it, will be facing this when you hit the age of 65. 65 is when Tricare stops. There are some select locations where it depends on the military treatment facility. Some will see people that pass the age of 65, but that varies. You have to ask the individual facility. For the most part, at age 65, there's a little bit of a stressor in the 3 to 6 months leading up to your 65th birthday. It's the next most stress probably that people complain about since planning to retire from the military. And that's trying to make the Medicare decision. Do I take Medicare Part B or not? Most everybody does. If you do take Medicare Part B and you already have Medicare Part A, which you've been paying into all your life, then the military will give you Tricare for Life for nothing right now. What that does is cover the 20% of your medical bills that Medicare doesn't cover. So Medicare will cover 80%. Tricare for Life covers that last 20%. So if you pay Medicare, which is not cheap, it's more expensive than Tricare, and it's on an individual basis. So if you're married, you'll pay one premium for yourself and a different premium for your spouse. If you're used to paying Tricare, it'll be a little bit of a cost shock. If you're used to paying civilian health care, it won't be a big deal to you. But what you do get is that last 20%, you'll have no out-of-pocket costs. Whereas civilians, when they go onto Medicare, then they go looking for a Medigap plan to pay for that 20%. So this was extended to by Congress. I want to say it was I'm thinking 2002 or 2008. I can't remember right now, but it was in the last 20 years, and it was for no charge to anybody except the military. So a nice, great benefit. Another one is the Federal Employees Dental and Vision Insurance Program. Prior to this, which has only been in place for about 3 years, we could use dental insurance through a thing called the Tricare Retiree Dental Plan. That was one insurance provider who provided dental insurance for everybody. By rolling the retired community into the FedVIP, as we call it, you now, number one, you have 12 dental carriers to choose from instead of one. And you also get vision insurance, which we didn't have before. And so those are two different things that you can opt into one or both or neither. But those are new plans that you can take advantage of. Next is a new program that many people don't even know about. the federal long-term care insurance program. The key to understanding what this is to understand what long-term care is. Long-term care is not care provided for a medical reason. Long-term care is not paid for by Tricare, Tricare for Life, Medicare. It is not for skilled nursing care. It is for activities of daily living where you need some help to do that. Some examples of activities of daily living are feeding, bathing, getting dressed, going to the bathroom, medication management. These are things that, later in life you physically might not be able to do it, or you may have some cognitive issues that prevent you from being able to do these things. You just need somebody to help care for you. So the FELTSIP program, as we call it, is an insurance program that you can opt into. It's not cheap. And like life insurance, you have to do it while you're still healthy, because they will look at your health conditions and they can exclude you. But this is a possibility, a way to do it. Both my parents went into assisted living. This one you can pay it for care in your home or in an assisted living facility. And it'll help defray some of those costs rather than having to take it out of your investments. This is something that takes a bit of study and some careful consideration and probably some financial advisor assistance. But it's better than asking your kids to pay for you to live in an assisted living facility or with them. So something to look into. All right, so I'm going to finish up with some good news here. You may not have seen the new ID card for the retired service members now. That's what you see there. It looks a lot like a CAC, except it's not a CAC. It doesn't have the chip on it. All your information is encoded in the back in a barcode. Also new, and this was pushed by the Chief of Staff of the Army's Retired Soldier Council for 10 years before it finally got approved. It used to be that spouses of retirees had to get their ID card renewed every 4 years up until the age of 75. Mm-hmm. That has now been revised down to age 65. So here's how it typically works. When you retire from the military, they'll give you a retired ID card, and it's going to have an expiration date of when you turn 65 on it. That is a forcing function to get you come back to get a new ID card. And when you come back to get the new ID card, they're going to ask you, what did you do with Medicare? Did you opt in or not? And they're going to take that information and encode it in DEERS so that healthcare providers will know whether you're covered by Medicare or not. So they'll give you that new ID card on your 65th birthday. Spouses will get the ID card on their 65th birthday as well. And it'll be, both of them are indefinite after that. You don't have to come back again. So a little bit less burden. Everybody here probably celebrated when you got the cost of living adjustment in January of 5.9%. That was good news. The reason behind it was not. That just means inflation was up. But fortunately, your retired pay is covered, and so is the survivor benefit plan, by the cost of living adjustments. We're looking at, as you hear in the news, inflation is up even higher so far this year. So at least you've got a pension or an annuity for survivors that is covered by inflation. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, it says Sbp Dic Offset Elimination. That's a law that Congress passed a couple of years ago. In January, we'll have the third year of implementation, and it'll be completely done. What they've done is, like retired pay and VA disability compensation, if a spouse received the survivor benefit plan and was also eligible for the VA's dependency and indemnity compensation, there was a dollar for dollar offset. Starting the 1st of January this coming year, there will be no more offset. The spouses will get all of the SBP and all of the DIC. And there's a video there you can go to watch. It's a 2-minute video that explains the basics of it. It's also on our website, which I showed you in the beginning. On the bottom right-hand corner there, it says gray area retiree accounts at DFAS. That was actually my initiative with DFAS. And they agreed that was a good idea. They've now completed that for all the services. So when a guardsman, National Guardsman or Army Reservist who is drilling completes their 20 years of service, usually between 20 and 22 years, most of them will stop drilling. But they don't collect their retired pay until they turn age 60. So they typically will spend anywhere from 12 to 15 years in what we call the gray area. They're not serving anymore, but they're not collecting retired pay. And they used to go off the radar. We would lose touch with them. They would move, change their email address, change their mailing address, and then they would forget to apply for retired pay at age 60, and we had no way to remind them. So what we're doing with these new accounts at DFAS, they just started it in October. So far, we got 25% of the gray area retirees to come into MyPay and give us new contact information. But what we'll do is stay in touch with them throughout the gray area to tell them what's going on with their benefits and laws that affect them, and to remind them about applying for retired pay when it's time. So that's a win for there. Here's just a couple links because I support all of my brothers and sisters in the services. The Guardians are still hanging with the Air Force. So if you know a Guardian, tell them to go look at the Air Force's website. And last, I want to talk a little bit about the Soldier for Life mindset. And this is an Army thing, but it really does apply to all of the services. This really is a purple thing. So I said earlier that the mission statement for retired service members is to hire and inspire. So what does that mean? Well, hire refers to helping veterans get jobs. That's what we should do, is be taking care of our brothers and sisters in arms. The inspire part has two things to it. The first part is to inspire Americans to understand their military and to support us. The other part of inspire is to inspire the next generation to follow in our footsteps into the military. So let me explain what these gold blocks mean. You may have heard that less than 1% of Americans serve in the military, and that's true. If you want to know about the percentage of Americans that are retired from the military, that is 0.6. 0.6% of Americans are retired from the military. Very small group. Less than 7% of Americans are veterans. That has been declining since after World War II. You know, as the greatest generation started passing away, the Vietnam generation is now passing away. The percentage of Americans that are veterans has been plummeting. There's a statistic that I read from a study that in 1960, 40% of American males were veterans. 40%. So that means it was your brother, it was your dad, it was your uncle, it was your next door neighbor. 4 out of 10 were veterans. That's because in 1960, we had all the we had the World War II vets, the Korean vets, didn't have Vietnam yet. But everybody knew somebody and had heard stories, but not today, less than 7%. 50% of Americans say that they have no knowledge of the military. They don't know us, they don't understand us, they don't know what we do or why we do it or how we do it. That's a problem. 50% for the Army, 50% of our recruits come from just 7 states. My hat's off to Texas. You guys are up there. So we really aren't reaching a lot of Americans outside of those 7 states. 84% of our, this is Army again, 84% of our new members have had a relative who served. The Army is a family business, and that is a problem. While it's great, we go back and look at how many people serve. If we are an insular business and we don't talk to people outside of our families, and we're smaller and smaller, we're headed for bad news. In fact, we have a recruiting problem right now. Part of the problem is this: 77% of Americans are not qualified to serve in the military. That's 77% of the 18 to 25 year age group are unqualified. So we can't even recruit them. We have to start with the 23% who are qualified and try to recruit from that.
Can I ask, hey, Mark, this is,
yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question, and this is where we're going to say, now we're going to open the floor for questions. Does that mean, why are they unqualified?
That's a great question. So typically it's one of 3 things that disqualifies them: obesity, drug use, or criminal records.
Okay.
Those are the big 3. So, and right now they say that the propensity to serve is only 9% of Americans think that that might be a possible future for them. So I'm back to talking about Inspire. We have not very many veterans. That means all of our veterans need to get into this business, or we're military. We're either going to have to go back to a draft or stop having a military if we can't recruit it.
Yeah.
So we all have to do talking about our service more has to become a normal thing. And that's part of the Soldier for Life mindset.
I really appreciate this great talk, Mark. And, you know, it's like I learned 4 or 5 things that I knew I needed to understand about, like Tricare for Life and all my benefits. I hope you'll come back, and I would love to, you know, we'll talk about how we can do another program maybe in 6 months, you know, or so, because this is information that people need. And I will say, as the co-founder of the Military Transition Roundtable, that I've sent people to you, and you've been very, very helpful with them. I know one guy, Sean, who's looking at his retirement issues. You helped him considerably, and so I got to say thank you for that. So now, guys, this is where you get to ask the questions. We have time for maybe 3 or 4 questions, and then I'll cut it off. And I will tell you that if you do have a question, you probably can reach out to Mark Overberg on his LinkedIn profile. And
Absolutely.
I would say this: when you connect with him, don't let the ghost of Matt Scherer go, wait, you connected with him without a purposeful note, and I will come get you if you did. All right. So time to open the floor for questions. Who would like to be the first question?
If nobody has a question, these are a couple prompts for you.
No, I do have, but in all benefits to my peers that are on this call, I don't want to take off the floor, but I wrote about 3 or 4 of them. First of all, Mark, I work not directly with you, but for the same, for the G1. Last week I was with Dr. Steinroff, and I am the benefit recipient of this career skills program. So I started with Deloitte. I start with Deloitte next week, and
Great.
I couldn't be any more thrilled about it. I mean, like you said, when I first got out, it was the ACAP, and go see the Lucas group over there on the corner, and good luck with your life, and that was it. So the way that this has progressed, it just completely mind blowing, and the way that this is leveraged.
So while you're talking about that, do you know about the AER, the new AER news on that?
No, I do not.
Army Emergency Relief will help pay for your costs incurred while you're doing that. Like if you need new clothes, or if you have to move and do something like that. So go to the AER website, Army Emergency Relief, and they're providing, I think it's up to $1,500 in financial assistance in grants. So.
Got it. Great. So thank you so much for that, and thanks, Matt, for putting this together. Regarding the Medicare, the Part B that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So when that comes around, obviously you have your baseline premium 170, and then if you're working, if you make a certain amount of money, then they'll charge you more. Comes out of your Social Security, not out of your retirement, correct? If you decide to opt in,
you can choose to take it out of your Social Security, and they'll look at the previous 2 years and figure out what your premiums are going to be based off of what you've been reporting to the IRS.
Okay. My next question is in regards to the long-term care. So the veteran on me say, okay, well, I mean, I tell my daughter and my wife jokingly, when I'm done and decrepit, just dump me at the first BA facility and forget about me. So, and I used to sell the insurance back in the day. So besides the 9, so what would be the benefit of the long-term care versus just trying to seek the BA benefits? This is more for the group.
So the VA, the VA is going to pay you for service-connected disabilities. They'll offer a pension if you're low income, but they don't necessarily pay. Now they may pay. All the health care the VA is going to provide you is medical, skilled nursing care. Now, there may be some, and I'm really starting to skate on thin ice of my knowledge in this area, so don't quote me on this part. There may be some state veterans facilities that could do that. There is, what am I thinking? The Armed Forces Retirement Homes. Have you heard of those? I sit on the Armed Forces Retirement Home Advisory Council. These are for enlisted and warrant officers, commissioned officers, but the Armed Forces Retirement Home in Washington, D.C., and the other one is down in Florida, Pensacola. Those you can go into as a fully able service member. You can apply and qualify. And they're pretty nice places. They provide all kinds of skilled nursing care there. They provide recreation, all kinds of, it's really, really a pretty good deal. If you go in healthy and start to have problems, you can stay there and transition to different parts of the same home and receive assisted living care there.
All right. No, that I don't want to take anybody else's time in case there's other questions out there. So appreciate it.
Those are some great questions. We have time for one more good question. Who else has a question? Okay, Pete, back to you. Get one more question, sir.
Hey, I'm gonna send you an email on. I have a out of office message, but I'm gonna send you an email on my Army.mil.
Okay.
Possibly to get you to talk to the current fellows of the Hiring Our Heroes right now. That's a large Army group that could probably, use if you have some time.
Sure.
I'll have the person in charge coordinate that directly with you.
So as a parting shot, I'm surprised nobody asked me about Arlington. If you're planning to get buried in Arlington, keep your eyes on the news over the next couple months. It was a proposal put out there in 2020. It's not been approved yet, but it will likely be approved. And what that means is those who can be buried in Arlington will be severely restricted. If you're a retiree from the service, you won't be able to get buried in ground in Arlington unless you've got a Purple Heart, a Silver Star, or higher.
Wow.
You can still get buried in the columbarium or get your ashes put in the columbarium there, But in-ground burials, because the ground is just, you know, there's not, real estate's finite, and they need to keep it going for a long time. So they're gonna do some restrictions.
One last comment on your website. I was just looking at the Army Echoes and how to get the newsletter. It's still under the .mil domain. Is that transitioning to the .army to the army.mil domain soon enough, or at some point in time?
Great question. So both Change of Mission and Army Echoes, we send those to the email address you have in your MyPay account. So when you retire, you're going to convert that MyPay account over to a civilian email address, and we'll send you Army Echoes right there.
Cool.
Impressive.
Thanks, Mark.
Hey, Mark, know that I'm gonna wrap this up as the acting president of the San Antonio Veterans Rotary Club. Our president, Dwayne, is a retired command chief. He's also going to be the district governor for Rotary, so he's off taking care of new duties when he becomes district governor on the 1st of July. We will honor you with a book in your name at the library that we work with. We provide books to those children. It's a school where they don't get a lot of access to great books and literature. So know that there'll be a book with your name on it. And our thanks for speaking, and with the hopes that you'll come back again. We will be meeting again in 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, we will have Monica Sanchez from the Bexar County office. So if you'd like to know what is all the benefits that are available that Mark just described on a local level, Monica will be our guest speaker then. And finally, we're still looking for volunteers. If you want to help us with our upcoming effort to help the county with their next career fair and job fair, please let us know. I know Pete we'll send the jet to get you, okay? The corporate jet to get you.
I'll be there.
And Michael Brownfield, you know, sadly, I don't think there'll be enough room for you either, but we will get you. Guys, this has been great. Several of you, I'm going to want to talk to you about becoming virtual members of the San Antonio Veterans Rotary Club. What that means is you're welcome in our group, but that also means that you can visit a Rotary Club within your community. And that's what our hope is, because Rotary is an international organization with millions of members. And it's, you know, it's definitely done some impressive things to advocate for the betterment of the community. With that, I will say good night. I will hang till everybody's had a chance to say goodbye to Mark. And Mark, I just have one little thing before you leave, if you don't mind, and we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming. Good to see everybody.
Thanks for